Hello friends, it's Serous. I'm an indie dev who works as part of Yakuten Games, and I'm also a solo dev of the Folklore series. For those of you hearing my voice for the first time, I'm sorry. For those of you who are hearing it for the second time or more, I'm even more sorry. So every year I do a summary of my year in art, and this year I thought, you know what, I might do one for my solo games. So let's get started. Bloodlines. Blood is strong, but love is stronger. Did you know that originally I had it that Sean and Tia were the same person? That's crazy to think about now. But when I was trying to make Folklore a comic series, Sean was actually the odious king. But at the start of 2024, after the success of Do You Like Sweets, it was pretty clear that the Folklore series was ready to move into a new medium, which was visual novels. I'll be doing a video about the old Folklore and the new Folklore and how it changed at some point 2025, so if you're interested, you can look out for that. So anyway, Bloodlines follows Morrigan, the court witch, and Sean, the servant to the Mythic king. Tia, who's a horrible dictator-like man who only sees value in others according to his own values, which just so happen to be toxic, and he's obsessed with the patriarchy. So it introduces some key characters in the series, but in particular Robert, who is going to be very important to the whole series. No series spoilers right now. So I like something about every game that I'll make, and I can always think of something I'd improve too. So for this game, what did I like? Well, it closely resembles the setting of the Folklore comics, but with better production values. You know, like the castle here looks so much better than it did in the comic. And I just really like the message of it too. You know, it's about family, it's about found family, it's about valuing people as they are, not who you want them to be. And I think that's a really nice message for the game. Points to improve, I think like the lack of really detailed CGs. Like, I wanted to make the whole game look as nice as the sprites and the backgrounds, but I just ran out of time because it was part of a jam. Inside the box. Won't you check inside, just to be sure? Oh boy, okay. So I didn't expect that people would love Oculus Sinister quite as much as they did. Like, I had already assumed that the Crooked Man had stolen the title of the series' Bizarrely Handsome Man. But when I was watching playthroughs, I began to realise that people really liked Oculus Sinister, which is comical to me given what he's actually trying to accomplish. Still, inside the box is a fairly simple premise. You're talking to a man in a suspicious realm who has a suspicious box and he wants you to open it. It might have something precious in it, but it could also have a trap. That's pretty weird. You're also somewhere called the Never Place. Sounds pretty ominous. So the longer you stall in the game as the player, the clearer it gets that the box is A, definitely sus and has a trap in it, and B, this dude isn't really here to help you at all. So the concept of tricksters is pretty popular in Folklore, and usually the heroes get out of it by stalling and asking questions. And whilst Oculus Sinister, or OS for short, as we're going to call him later on, he isn't a trickster by name or nature, but he is very good at being the archetype here for the purpose of the series. Anyway, your old mentor, the Crooked Man, who we're going to call Kruchan for short, he saves you, and it's all hunky-dory. Or not, because he says you can't be his apprentice anymore and you have to part ways. For now. Now he's clearly keeping secrets about the Never Place. OS seemed really happy that you knew Kruchan and implied that he was using you as bait to lure him back for some reason. So this game is really getting into the meat and bones of the series. We start to meet more of, we start to understand the Crooked Man better, and we meet Oculus Sinister. And I really appreciated the response from the players about Oculus Sinister. I was a bit overwhelmed because everyone thought he was hot, and that wasn't what I expected. People also really liked Jack and Jill, who, despite being in it for 2 minutes, won the hearts of people everywhere. That might be a slight exaggeration. Now, what did I like about it? The atmosphere of this game was exactly what I intended it to be. It has this really solid vibe, and I appreciated that that came across when I was reading the feedback. Except for one comment where someone told me it was boring, poorly optimised, and the font was too small. So dislikes. So not really a dislike, but The game ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. I would have liked to have made that banter bit with Crew-chan a bit longer so that the player could have seen more what the back and forth between them looks like, but maybe you're going to see that in 2025? Who knows? Sanctuary. Hope finds you when you least expect it. Making those dark and emotionally intense games requires a bit of a pause for breath. So, for my 1000 word game of the year for only one of any asset, I wanted to go in like a totally different direction. The spectre of Crew-chan was hanging over the game's protagonist, Alice Dogood, like garlic salt covered garlic with garlic paste all over it, like just this stinky ghost who was looming over her ominously. Now what I mean is, Crooked's first foray, Do You Like Sweets, was in the previous year's Only One of Any Asset, and it was very popular. So I already knew that I could not make lightning strike twice, so I wanted to go in an entirely different direction, and I wanted to do the opposite. Something gentle, something comforting, and something new. So Sanctuary is set in a place that's quite close to where I live, and it follows the story of a church grim called Gregory, who has lost many of his old friends in the Neverplace and has kind of just given up on himself. He kind of lies as a dog in an abandoned abbey, and he sees everything as pointless because he couldn't help those he cared about. His whole world is grey, and it's really, really sad. But then he meets Alice Dogood, or rather she meets him, because this kindly witch just won't give up on Gregory. She visits him over and over again, and she brings him treats, and she comforts him, and she brings him water and toys. She doesn't know that he's a mythic, she just thinks it's this dog that has no one to care for him. And the game ends with a choice, which is you go with Alice or you stay in the abbey. Now, there are no bad endings here. Alice is going to stay with Gregory if he isn't ready to leave, or Gregory will become a man again and he'll go with Alice and he's going to give life a second chance. So this game didn't perform particularly well compared to Crew-chan, and I get it, it's not edgy, it's not gripping, it isn't action-packed. It's just a story about a kind witch who's ready to give an old soul a boost he needs to carry on. But that is entirely why I like it so much. I don't care that it didn't do well according to the metrics. I love this game. I think it's beautiful, it's hopeful, and it's really sweet, because the Folklore series, even in comic form, was meant to be about, you know, the really dark and sinister side of Folklore, but also these really sweet, small stories as well. So what did I like about this one? The menu screen is an ode to the Abbey where the game is set, and I spent a long time on that picture, and I think it came out really, really nice. So my dislike is that I had actually drawn a CG of Gregory in his human form with Alice at the end of the game, and then I checked the rules of the jam and it was like, you're not allowed to use the CGs, because I had already used graphics and stuff. Or maybe I misunderstood the rules, but that's how I understood it. But maybe you'll see him again. Wink. Only when you sleep will you ever escape the Neverplace. So, fun fact here, Persuers of Mythic Truth, which is the next game I'm going to talk about, was meant to come out before Only When You Sleep, but because of the jams they were both in and the deadlines, I actually couldn't release them in that order, and that was a bit frustrating. But my testers told me it was okay, and I believe in them, so I took their word for it. I also believe in my sanity, so I just let it go and released them slightly out of order. So, in the game story, earlier in this year, the protagonist had escaped the Neverplace because of the Crooked Man, and they meet this strange Dream Eater who wants to explore our dreams, and apparently we've been causing commotion in the dream realm, and we don't know why, but then it's revealed that our dreams have been about Neverplace. Now, we don't know whether this is like artificially caused or whether we're naturally dreaming about it. We don't know. But all we know is that when the player goes to sleep, they end up in the Neverplace. Now, we meet the newest model of evil handsome man. Seriously, you guys, I don't understand. Like, I thought he was an old man, and then people were like, oh, he's quite attractive. Don't understand. Anyway, so this is Vikram Lakshmi. He is a mysterious man who calls himself Danielyan, which is the right hand of Pandemonium. We found out that Oculus Sinister is the left eye. Seems like Pandemonium wants us to join the body part party. But, you know, hopefully the player has other plans and doesn't want to do that. You're going to discover that some of the people who were doomed in the Never Place are still there, and what do you know? Gregory's friend, the Phoenix, is there. We also see Oculus Sinister, and there's a draconic mage called Dracane. Now, whilst your Dream Eater friend is trying to save you, to try and get you back to the mundane realm, if you're really unlucky, you may actually die. You can either be turned into a doll, have your knees broken, or be unable to move, or get stuck in a shop. The last one doesn't sound as sinister as the rest, does it? The guy who works in the shop says he was your friend once and you seem to have forgotten him. Keep that in mind for later. So, this game was an experiment for sound design, really. Animated backgrounds and animated sprites. It didn't have voice acting on release, so I had to get the atmosphere really, really tight. I really like this game because it has like this abstract level of symbolism, and I really enjoyed crafting all the meanings of the tarot cards in the backgrounds. And you know, you're not anywhere. You're kind of nowhere, which is what the Never Place is all about. Also, doing animated sprites for the first time was fun. I enjoyed that, making them shake. But my dislike is because of the voice actor strike at the time. I couldn't get this VA'd, or rather, I didn't get it VA'd. I hope that I can get it VA'd in the future, maybe for Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Pursuers of Mythic Truth. Follow your truth wherever it leads. So this game follows on from inside the box, and remember, this is before Only When You Sleep, so imagine it's in the middle of those two. You've left the Crooked Man and you're looking for answers about the Never Place and Oculus Sinister and Crew-chan and all this stuff, and you end up in Edinburgh Library and you're looking around, and two agents from a mysterious Silver Dragon company are sent to find you, and you're trying to hide from them. And this man called Serous, a happy-go-lucky arcane scholar, that means that he's kind of a mixed witch wizard heritage. He's determined to help you out, and he kind of saves you, and he does this for no other reason than just being a nice guy. He gets you away from those people and he invites you to his apartment. Now, his grumpy roommate, Hakan, has other ideas. When he sees you, he's distrustful, he thinks you're some kind of bad omen on the house, and he wants you to leave straight away. But eventually, Serous convinces him to stay, and they both share their stories about their families, and Pandemonium, and the Never Place. And there's a really nice dichotomy. So Serous is like this very modern, very cheerful, optimistic guy, and Hakan's like this very broody and moody guy who uses a lot of traditional like Danish phrases. Like you can tell maybe he's had a bit of an insular life before he's kind of moved in with Serous. Now, before you leave these two, because they let you go and go and catch a train, they've given you some directions. You get given the number of this certain bamboo witch, and Serous is like, she can help purify you, she can help sort you out, you should go see her. When you get to the train station, there is a Korean Gumiho woman called Seo. She finds you and she's like, you're going to the Never Place. And there's no one there to help you, you think you're doomed, and then Hakan flies in and is like, absolutely not, don't you dare touch them, they're staying here. And she then reveals that Hakan has been a messenger of the Never Place the whole time, and Serous then comes and he agrees to take your place. He says he'll go to the Never Place in exchange for you. So that guy who you met in Only When You Sleep, this is him, it's Serous. Anyway, so he spares you from that fate. He knows that he was pretty much destined to go there anyway, and he also knows that the reason that Hakan has been with him the whole time is because Hakan was meant to take Serous, and then for some reason he didn't. So Serous and Seo go to Never Place, and Hakan is enraged. He's heartbroken, and he basically just leaves you all alone. He decides not to hurt you, which is good, but he's like, don't come and help me, I'll find Serous, don't even try, because you're useless and you can't do anything right, basically. So you get on the train, because you've got to do that, because you paid for your ticket, and the Silver Dragon himself, Peter Smith, the true Mythic King, who has been usurped by Tia, is just sat there on the train, and he's like, yeah, sorry about all of that, they seemed a bit iffy, they're actually my agents and they're okay. So anyway, this game sees the debut of characters that I actually came up with in like 2010. So that's Peter and Jack and Jill. They've been in my brain for many, many years. And it was so nice just to see them on the screen talking and acting the way that I thought they would. So this game, we're going to talk about what I like about it. It is a massive passion project for me for a number of reasons. So the idea of Folklore, the comic, was to use real places, and the backgrounds in this game are real places in Edinburgh that I've been to. So you can go and stand in the places where Siraj and Co stood. I love the city of Edinburgh too, so this is maybe like my love letter to Edinburgh. So number 2, being able to travel the world of Folklore through like these cultural storytelling artifacts is something that I've always wanted to do with this series. A lot of my degree actually focused on interactive storytelling, and I feel like Persuers reflects that a lot. So you've got like the Kavad that Siraj has, and there's also like the panels, the paper panels that Sio has when she's telling her story as well. I really enjoyed doing those, even though they were quite painful. My dislike, so it's really hard to say with this one because it captures the vibe of the Folklore comics really well. The first volume in particular is quite similar to this. The thing I did reflect on is that it doesn't really translate into a game particularly well. But then I kind of thought about it again. Some of the Folklore games are really about the player making choices and that impacting the story. Some of them are about just letting the story unfold. This game is one of those. Valravn, roses for lovers and lilies for the dead. So the year drew to a close, and I was hot off the back of finishing the major release of Hyakuten Games this year, The Waiting Room. You should go play that game. Anyway, most people would get a signal from their brain to switch off and just enjoy like the festive period, but my brain was like, just one more game, just make one more game. And I suppose that this game ties up a lot of this year's Folklore games, so I did feel like it was needed, and I felt like I could do it in a time-efficient way, we'll say that. Now, I mentioned this in my post-mortem for this game, but Christmas is not a happy time for everyone, not every year. It can be really isolating and lonely, or it can be really suffocating for some people, you know, with all of the artificial joy and we must all have a Merry Christmas. I wanted to make a game that reflects that it's okay to be pensive over the seasonal holiday, and bereavement can hit us really hard during this time. So this is a Hacken-centric game, and it follows on from Pursuers of Mythic Truth. So not only has he lost Siraj, but he's lost his lifeline to connecting with the people around him. You know, he doesn't really understand modern society. He doesn't get how any of it works. And the idea of seasonal cheer that just starts because of a certain day in the calendar is really artificial to him, and he can't deal with it. So being a mythic, he decides that he is going to just become a bird and disconnect pretty much, and, you know, other himself from this vapid consumer-driven nonsense that he sees all around him. But I was really happy that Gregory takes human form, finally. We've all been waiting for that since Sanctuary. And he is to someone else what Alice was to him. His story's progressed. And, you know, many years have passed between Sanctuary and Valravn. It's not like 6 months, it's like hundreds of years. But the player is allowed the luxury of seeing how Gregory's become the kind of person who can really help others, and also being able to relate to them because of his own struggles of losing the people he cares about. Now, obviously this is important for Gregory, but this story is really about Hacken. It's a big turning point for him because there's 2 different endings, but they both point to the same conclusion. Hacken realises that things need to change. He doesn't know how exactly, but he can't just be a raven forever. He needs to do something to confront what has happened. Now, I won't lie when I say there's 2 songs that really fueled this game's development. For copyright reasons, I can't play them here. I'll put the title here. But if you read the devlog for this game, you'll know which songs they are. Now, what I'll say, this game is really about atmosphere. Slightly different direction for the visuals because of time constraints, but I wanted it to be like a very ambient, emotional and impactful game, and I wanted the music to reflect that. The music in this game is really, really nice. This game is also one of the few that shows, you know, mythics turning into humans and then turning back. And I'm really happy about that because finally we're conveying that happening more regularly in this game. We kind of see it every now and again in some of the other titles, but here it happens pretty regularly. So what do I like about it? The intention of this game's first ending is really emotional. I'm not going to spoil what it is because it is like the crux of the game. But it's a really nice turning point in Hakon's story. We all deal with grief, and it's a topic that deserves a small and reflective title of its own to help Hakon do that in a space and time that's his own. I didn't want this to become an aside for another story. My dislike is what it is. I don't really dislike anything with this game. Maybe a CG at the end for ending 1 would have been nice, but for what it is, I actually just really like this game as it is. I don't think I'd change very much about it. So it's the wrap up. It has been a massive year for Folklore, so I'd like to thank every voice actor, every streamer, every tester, general support that I receive for this series, and me personally doing and making this series in 2024. I am just like constantly moved by comments and feedbacks and playthroughs I receive where people say things like, you know, I've played this game over and over again, or this game made me cry. I'm really privileged and blessed to have people around me who really support this series and what I'm doing with it. So thank you to you. So 2025 is going to be just as exciting as 2024. There's going to be at least a couple of Folklore titles and at least a couple more Hyakuten Games titles too. It will be busy, but I'm looking forward to it a lot. So with that, I wish you all a prosperous, safe and peaceful 2025, if it's possible. If that's not possible, I hope you can find happiness in whatever it is you like to do. And I hope that somehow this game series can make you think about things differently, make you feel good in some way or another, maybe because of the creepy men, who knows, or the game series just speaks to you in some way or another that you enjoy. So thank you so much for your companionship. Bye! Thanks again for watching this video. If you would like to talk to me about Folklore or game dev or anything like that, feel free to check me out on Blue Sky. My name is Sarah1004 on there, or you can check me out on Itch. I'm happy to talk about anything to do with game dev, anything about the Folklore series or any Hyakuten games. Just happy to talk. Thank you so much and see you soon.